Welcome to Beyond Belief, a place where we move beyond surface Christianity, beyond comfortable religion, and rediscover the radical teachings of Jesus. Because sometimes the most powerful truths are the ones hiding in the most familiar words. Jesus did not describe his followers as rulers of empires. He didn't call them conquerors of nations. Instead, he used two simple images, salt and light. Two things so ordinary, you might miss their power. Yet Jesus said these quiet forces have the ability to change the world. Not through domination, not through noise, but through influence. And when you understand what Jesus meant, you begin to see something remarkable. The kingdom of God spreads not by force, but by transformed lives. This is beyond belief. Imagine walking into a completely dark room. No windows, no lamps, just darkness. Then someone lights one single candle. What happens? The darkness begins to retreat. Not because the candle fought the darkness, but because light simply shines. And Jesus once looked at a group of ordinary people, fishermen, tax collectors, former outcasts, and told them something astonishing. He said, "You are the light of the world." Think about that for a moment. Not someday, not after they became famous, not after they gained power. Right then, right there, Jesus told ordinary people they carry the potential to illuminate the world. Welcome back to Beyond Belief. If you've been following the series, we've been exploring the teachings of Jesus step by step. In episode 1, the announcement of the kingdom of God. Episode 2 was the surprising blessings of the Beatitudes. And now, Jesus continues his sermon with a powerful idea. If you belong to the kingdom, your life has influence. Influence that may seem small, but influence that changes everything. I remember a moment years ago when I started realizing something about influence. I used to think influence meant visibility. The bigger platform, the bigger impact. The more followers, the more change you could create. But then I began noticing something different. Some of the people who had the greatest influence in my life were not famous. They weren't public figures. They didn't have platforms. They were teachers, friends, mentors, people who quietly lived with integrity, people who consistently showed kindness, people whose lives carried a kind of light. And over time, I realized something. Influence doesn't always come from position. Sometimes it comes from presence. And if we're honest, many of us struggle with this. Because when we look at the world, it often feels like the loudest voices win. The most aggressive voices dominate. The most powerful people shape culture. And in moments like that, it's easy to feel small. It's easy to feel like our lives don't make much difference. But Jesus says something very different. He says small acts of faithfulness carry enormous influence in the kingdom of God. Let's listen to the words of Jesus in Matthew 5, verse 13 to 16. Jesus says, "You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot." But notice, Jesus doesn't just describe influence, he warns about losing it. if the salt loses its saltiness. In other words, it's possible to look like a follower of Jesus and yet have no real impact. To be present in the world, but not different from it. Then he continues, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it in its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house." And maybe the question isn't, do I have light? Maybe the real question is, where am I hiding it? Hiding it in fear? Hiding it in compromise? Hiding it in the need to fit in? And then Jesus says this, "In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." To understand what Jesus meant, we have to understand what salt meant in the ancient world. Salt did two important things. First, it preserved. Before refrigeration, salt prevented food from spoiling. It slowed down decay. Second, salt added flavor. It made things better, more vibrant, more alive. So when Jesus calls his followers salt, he's saying something remarkable. The presence of kingdom people should slow the decay of the world. Their lives should make the world better. Imagine the people listening to Jesus that day. Ordinary villagers, people who had never thought of themselves as important. And Jesus looks at them and says, "You are the salt of the earth." In other words, your presence matters. Your life matters. Your faithfulness matters, even when no one else notices. Then Jesus uses another image, light. Light doesn't shout. Light doesn't force. Light simply shines. And when it shines, darkness loses its power. Picture Jesus saying these words, "You are the light of the world." Not just teachers, not just religious leaders, but ordinary people. People who had struggled, people who had failed, people who were learning to follow him. Jesus saw something in them they could barely see in themselves. He saw light, and through them, that light would eventually spread across the world. One of the most surprising things about the kingdom of God is how quietly it grows. Jesus compared the kingdom to yeast in dough, a small amount that slowly transforms everything. That's how influence works in the kingdom, through everyday faithfulness, through quiet acts of love, through people who live differently. Think about the early Christians. They had no political power, no armies, no institutions. Yet within a few centuries, the message of Jesus had spread across the Roman Empire. How? Not through force, through transformed lives, through compassion, through radical love, through people living as salt and light. And that same invitation still exists today. Imagine a world where Christians truly lived as salt and light, where integrity replaced hypocrisy, where kindness replaced cruelty, where generosity replaced greed, where forgiveness replaced bitterness. The world wouldn't just notice, the world would change. So, what does this look like in everyday life? It might look like showing kindness when others are harsh, choosing integrity when dishonesty is easier, encouraging someone who feels invisible, forgiving someone who doesn't deserve it. Small moments, but powerful influence. Because every time you live this way, light shines. And suddenly the words of Jesus take on new meaning. You are the light of the world. Not because you are perfect, but because His kingdom is alive within you. And when that kingdom begins shaping your life, the light becomes visible, not for your glory, but for God's. You are the light of the world, which means this world is darker when you hide, and brighter when you choose to live differently. Here's the truth to remember. The kingdom of God spreads through influence, not domination. This week, look for opportunities to shine light, encourage someone, serve someone, show kindness, practice integrity. Small actions, but kingdom impact. May your life carry the quiet influence of the kingdom. May your presence slow the decay of the world. And may your light shine in ways that point people to God. Thank you for joining me on Beyond Belief. If this episode encouraged you, share it with someone who needs hope today. Because the teachings of Jesus are meant to be lived, not just heard. Somewhere in your life right now, there is a person walking in darkness, and they may never read a Bible. They may never walk into a church, but they will see you. And what they see in you might be the closest thing to Jesus they ever encounter. Because when ordinary people quietly live the way Jesus taught, darkness doesn't stand a chance. And that changes everything.